Okay, in lesson 4.1, we're doing something called factoring out a common factor. Factoring is doing the opposite of multiplying. The opposite of distributive property, the opposite of FOIL. So the opposite of the things that we did on the unit test we just took, we are, instead of getting rid of the parentheses, putting them back in. So we're doing the opposite. So you had to do the multiplication before you could do the factoring. The first rule of factoring is look for something common to the terms that are in the polynomial. So no matter how many terms there are, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or how many ever, you're looking for something that's common to every single term. That common thing could be a number, a coefficient, or that common thing could be a variable, or that common thing could be more than one variable, or it could be all of those things together, okay? So we're gonna look for pieces or one piece at a time when we're looking for that common factor. So, first question. I'm first looking at my coefficients. Is there a number that divides both into 15 and into 3? It is not 5, but you did the division already. 5 is not the common factor. Look at it again. 3 is the common factor. Because 3 goes into 3 and 3. You did the division already. You did 3 goes into 15 5 times. Your brain went one step ahead. Okay? So my common factor is 3. So that comes on the outside. And then I look to see, is there a variable common? Do both terms have an x? No. Do both terms have a y? No. So the only thing common to both of these terms is 3. And I put my parentheses. And I divide. 3 divided into 15 is 5. And my x comes down. Minus comes down. 3 divided into 3 is 1. And my y comes down. If I want to mentally check it, I do what I just did on the test today. 3 times 5x is 15x. 3 times negative 1y is negative 3y. I get what I started with when I distribute. You don't have to do that unless you just want to, okay? But I want to show you that you do get back what you started with. All right, question 2. Common number, common factor of 14 and 8 is equal to how many? 2. And I divide. 2 divided into 14 is 7. My x comes down, plus comes down. 2 divided into 8 is 4.
And that's all your answer is going to be?
That's my answer.
Oh.
Okay, common number between 6 and 3. Common factor? Zach? 3. So 3 divided into 6 is 2. My x comes down, minus comes down. 3 divided into 3 is 1, and my y comes down. That's my answer. Okay, so we're going to pick up some variables here. Coefficient of an understood 1 and 4. So the only common thing between 1 and 4 is 1. So we don't usually take that out as a common factor. But they do both have x's. One of them has an x to the first power, understood. One of them has an x to the second power, as it's listed there. So how many x's are common to those terms? Tommy? 1. They each have 1. So this one has 1, this one has 2. So 1 is common. They both have at least one x. So that's what comes out. If I take x from x to the second, so I'm gonna take one of them from the two of them, leaving me one of them. So there was two, I took one out in front, so it left the other one. Plus comes down, 4 comes down. And then if I take this x from that x, there's no more x's left. On the variable ones, if you're not sure, that's a good time to check yourself, but I will show you how, again, I did that. Again, not necessary though. X times x, x to the second power, x times 4, 4x. So I get back what I started from. That should happen every single time. Eight and 7. Anything common to 8 and 7?
No.
No, other than 1. They do both have x's. Again, this has an x to the 1, this has an x to the 2. So an x to the 1 would be common. And I divide. My 8 comes down. X taken from x to the second leaves me an x. Plus comes down. 7 comes down. X from x. I took it off. Tommy.
Oh, I just have a question about the last one we did. So, on the head, on the 7, why aren't we putting the X?
Why aren't we what?
Putting the X after the 7?
Right here,
Yes.
because I took it to the outside already.
Oh, okay.
So I already took that x away as the common factor,
Alright.
okay? I think it actually makes more sense when I make them harder, you'll see why,
Okay.
okay? All right, 10 and 15, is there a common number to both of those? Are you raising your hand or you actually giving me the answer, or both? It is 5. They both have an x. One is to the power of 2, one is to the power of 1, so 1 is common. They do not both have a y, so y is not common to both terms. And I divide. 5 divided into the 10 is 2. X taken from x to the second. So I took one x out from x2, leaving me an x. Plus comes down. 5 divided into 15 is 3. X from x is gone. Bring my y down. Okay, common number to both 2, 4, and 12.
2.
2. X is not common because the 12 doesn't have an x on it. So I cannot take an x out. So I'm only taking out a number in this one. 2 divided into 2 is 1. Bring down the x squared. If you don't take any x's out, then they just come down. 2 divided into 4 is 2, my x comes down. Plus 2 divided into 12 is 6.
Yo. Stop.
All right, common number to 3 and 9 and 15.
3.
3. They all have x. I have an x to the 1, an x to the second, and an x to the third. So what's common? Just an x. Right. all have at least one, so that comes out. So 3 divided into 3 is 1. And here we go, I'm starting to increase my powers now. X from x to the third. So if I take an x out, I'm left with what? X squared. I'm left with 2 of them. Good. So I had 3. Took 1 out. That leaves me the other 2. Good. Minus 3 divided into 9 is 3. X from x squared leaves me 1x. Plus 3 into 15 is 5. And x from x, I took it all out. Let's go right to this one below. Okay, they both have x's. One is an x to the third, one is an x to the second. So what's common?
X. To the first.
The second.
To the second, because they both have at least 2 of them. So x to the second is common. So x is common, without a doubt. But we want to know to what power is it common. So y is common, how many?
4.
4, good. So if I have 4 and I have 5, 4 are common. Okay, so from the first one, what am I going to be left with right here? X squared into x to the third is x, and y to the fourth into y to the fourth, gone. I took it all. Plus x squared into x squared is gone, took it all. And y to the fourth from y to the fifth is y to the 1 or just a y. So I don't need you to write this out like I'm writing here above this, where I'm showing you what that power means, but certainly as you begin doing it, if it's helpful. But when you're looking at 2 powers, you're gonna be taking the smaller one. So when I have that 4 and 5, I take 4 out because they all have 4. They don't all have 5, but they all have 4. Okay, let's look at the one right below it. Okay, common factor between 14 and 7? 7. Both have x's. One has an x to the second, one has an x to the third. So what's common?
2.
X to the second. And I have a y to the fourth and a y to the second. So what's common? Y to the second. So I divide. 7 into 14 is 2. X to the second taken from x to the third leaves me x to the 1, or just an x. And y squared from y to the fourth leaves me a y to the second. So 2 from the fourth. You're subtracting, because you're dividing. Just like you did today. Bring down the plus. 7 divided into 7 is 1. X squared from x squared, I took it all. Y squared from y squared, I took it all. That's the hardest one on here. Because those other 2 are even simpler than that. Okay, let's look at these 2. This is where it gets a little tricky with the common factor. You gotta be super careful because you wanna make sure you get the biggest common factor. So what is it for 27 and 18?
6.
6 then going to 27.
9.
It's 9. and then x to the
First.
first comes out. So 9 into 27 is 3. X from x squared, so take 1 from 2, leaving me 1. And then 9 divided into 18 is 2. X from x, all gone. Okay, and the last one. Let's get the biggest one here. Common factor,
10.
10. Get that biggest one, because 2 goes in there, and 5 goes in there. We want to make sure we get the biggest one. I have an x to the 2 and an x to the 1, so that means that x to the 1 is my common, and a y to the third, and a y to the second. So what's common is y to the
For a second.
second. And I divide. 10 divided into 10 is 1. X from x squared, so take 1 from 2 leaves me 1. Y squared from y to the third, 2 from the 3 leaves me 1. Minus 10 into 20 is 2. X from x is gone, took it all. Y squared from y squared, took it all. Okay, yes, you do have an assignment. So OTL, rule 4.1. We are not gonna take assessment on that yet next class. Just that OTL. OTL, rule 4.1. Did I put up here that you do have an assessment?